Good morning. Sorry for the late start. My brother is in the hospital, got transferred by helicopter down to Salt Lake, and so spent the night in the waiting room for at the cardiac or coronary ICU. He's survived the night. We'll see what comes. Anyway, we will pick up the trial, put it at 1.25 so we can get caught up. So without further ado, here we go. It looks like I didn't quite get it. Okay, there we go.
Are there any matters we have to take up before the jury comes out?
Yes, Your Honor. I did some additional research last night. It's regarding some of the matters that were raised yesterday, primarily on redirect. And in checking the case law before, and as I said, this came up late in the day yesterday, and I certainly didn't want to raise this in front of the jury. The state was permitted to ask Mr. or Officer Kimball questions about what he thought was odd or strange about the defendant's answers or things she wrote or didn't write. He was also allowed to opine about what he believes he saw in the truck and his opinion on what that meant when the truck turned down. Maybe it was Green, maybe it was Milford Street, I don't recall. I wanted to check on the law. Those are the kind of things that go directly to the province of the jury. It goes directly to allowing a witness to testify as to their opinion by a police officer, not an expert, but still as a trained investigator as to what he believes the evidence showed. And more concerning to me, what he believed about my client. So by saying things what she said was strange or odd, that is the same as opining about his opinion about her truthfulness and credibility. And I note, Your Honor, I looked up some cases. State versus Rivera at 169 Con Ave, 343. More importantly, LaPointe versus Commissioner, 316 Connecticut, 225, so specifically at note 83. That's a 2015 Connecticut Supreme Court case. State versus George A, the letter A, 308 Connecticut, 274. My concern, Your Honor, is at the beginning of this case, before evidence started, I filed 2 motions in limine. One specifically dealt with law enforcement opinion regarding the credibility or truthfulness of the defendant. The other one, filed the same day, was a motion in limine to preclude testimony that contains or references speculative statements, theories, or opinions of law enforcement. Based on practice book section 42-15, I've raised these issues because I was aware, because I've had this case for years, I've reviewed everything, there was a danger that this type of prejudicial evidence and interference with, because police have made these speculative statements in reports and in opinions. If Your Honor ever read the arrest warrant, half of it is their theory or opinion that is not based on fact. It's based on their own, I would submit, strained references and speculation. But what makes this particularly concerning to me, Your Honor, is that I had asked that these matters be at least addressed at the beginning. Your Honor, I think, used the metaphor about you were going to slow pitch this, if I remember, regarding some of these issues. and wait till they came up during the trial. Well, at least these motions put the state on notice that these were issues I was concerned about, and I would have thought it would have behooved the state to then say there are a couple of matters at this point we are going to get into these issues, and we need a ruling on whether they're coming in or not. The court has suggested somehow that cross-examination will take care of these issues. I submit that that's impossible once the bell is rung, and it's impossible to unring the bell on these matters that are prejudicial. And I suggest that because they go to issues that the jury must decide, they directly impact the defendant's constitutional right to fair trial, to a jury deciding the facts of the case rather than police officers, and more importantly, to due process and the right to prepare a defense. Since we anticipated these matters at the beginning and the court did not rule, and I will note that there's another matter that's going to come up today on the same issue that I'm assuming a number of police officers are going to give their opinion about a red truck that passes in 1 or 2 seconds on one or more highways, and they're just say, yeah, that's the Tacoma, that's the same vehicle, whatever. I'm assuming that's what's happening today, and that's why it's important to raise this now. I understand that I also objected to these matters on the record, incited opinion, improper opinion. The jury can decide this, what they heard for themselves, etc. And I was overruled on those issues. And we did express concern, and it's impossible, I think, once the jury hears this, to be able to unring that bell. It was unduly prejudicial to allow this witness, and again, it was on redirect, and to be subject to leading questions for that whole, isn't it a fact that, isn't it a fact that, this was strange, did you find this odd, etc., etc. And then I was precluded from bringing up other things that your Honor thought, you know, that didn't open the door that wide, etc., etc. I'm just doing this for the record, obviously, because I didn't have a chance to do this while the jury was in the room. I would note, Your Honor, that although these cases, there are cases that say that when I talk about general behavior, how people generally react when they're being questioned, that there's basically, which I will note, I at no point asked Mr. Kimball, Officer Kimball, whether he thought that Michelle Troconis' body language suggests anything. I talk in general. People are educated, uneducated, people have experience of how they react in general. And that was the reason that Mr. McGinnis used for being able to ask specific things about Ms. Troconis, not about what people do in general. And so I submit that it not only invaded the province of the jury, but went directly to an opinion about my client's truthfulness, her credibility, that what she said was strange to him. It went to her behavior, not in general, to what people do in general. It violated all these the law. It also, I note, Your Honor, if I could just for a moment note, there's even a section in Judge Prescott's book, section 7.10.4, that talks about the impropriety of witnesses, talking about the credibility of other witnesses, other people. But I warrant at the house and on the individuals, correct?
Yes.
And that's the day you had seized Fotis Dulos' phone, right?
Yes, sir.
And later drove up to Litchfield, right?
Yes.
To bring that phone.
Correct.
So
Well, no, I'm sorry. So I did not have the phone yet. The phone was seized at Troubel, Mr. Dulos' phone. I had the license plates with me.
Okay. But you were bringing the license plates up to Litchfield. That was but that came later, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So you're in the front and you see a white Jeep pull into the Jeep Cherokee, pull somewhere along Jefferson Crossing, right?
Yes.
And it was heading, if we're just orienting ourselves to the image, to the right of the screen. That is I see there's some kind of a white vehicle do you see that vehicle?
Yes, I do.
All right. So we're right here. Is this the direction that the vehicle was going when you first noticed it?
Yes, sir. So if we're orienting the map here, he would have been driving from left to right on the screen. So if you were coming to 4 Jefferson Crossing, that's the way he would have come, driving toward the house. However, he didn't stop at the house. He continued on past the house.
You said he was traveling like at 10 miles an hour, right?
I estimated 5 to 10, but not
Very
very
slow.
not very fast.
Okay.
Correct.
And you recognize the car because you said you'd seen it earlier down on Sturbridge Hill Road, right?
Yes, sir. So we knew there was a white Jeep Cherokee in play as being registered to the 4 group. And Detective Frechette and I had also observed a white Jeep Cherokee at 61 Sturbridge at some point earlier that week.
It was earlier during that week between May 24th and the 31st, right? That you saw it down there?
So it would have been between May 28th and the 31st.
Fair enough. Did you observe it by actually observing it at 61 Sturbridge Hill Road, or were you looking at some kind of surveillance Ring doorbell videos from across the street?
No, sir. We were canvassing the neighborhood and we actually physically saw it there, parked on the property.
Were you the person or one of the detectives that actually obtained surveillance video from Sturbridge Hill Road from across the street? Was that you?
I don't believe so, sir.
It was someone else.
Yes.
And it wasn't Detective Frechette with you?
It might have been. I'd have to look at his report. But we worked together canvassing for video, so that sounds accurate.
Okay, all right. So in any event, let me see if I get this straight. You see the vehicle, you recognize it or believe you recognize it, right?
It's consistent with a white Jeep Cherokee.
Right. It didn't say 4 group on it on the side, right?
Did not.
But the driver was looking straight ahead as he passed the house, wasn't he?
That's what it appeared to me, yes.
In fact, there's all this activity with several state police cars in and around the property at this moment, right?
That is accurate.
And you have somebody driving, we're looking straight ahead, not even looking over to see what's going on, right?
That's how I remember it, yes.
And that's one of those things that alerted you or at least raised your suspicion. Isn't that true?
That's accurate.
And the car, as you said, it went down to the right. And there's no other way out of Jefferson Crossing down there, is there?
Not unless you were going to drive through someone's property.
And woods.
Correct.
So it's a cul-de-sac, right?
Yes, sir.
So the car slowly turned around, right?
Oh, I didn't specifically see it turned around just because of the way the street is situated. You can't see the cul-de-sac from where we were, but at some point it had to have turned around because I viewed it coming back out.
It's curved and it dips down a bit, right?
That's correct.
And so that we're clear on this, this street is on the top of Avon Mountain, correct?
I'd have to take a peek at the map. I don't know if it's at the top. I'm not going to dispute it. I can't answer that.
A lot of these images, it's difficult to tell that the topography, but there is Deer Cliff Road and Eli Road are the roads just to the left of this screen, right?
I believe Eli turns into Deer Cliff, like right around Jefferson Crossing.
And
Yes.
if you're coming up Eli, that's a very steep hill to get to Jefferson Crossing, right?
Again, I don't really remember if it's a hill or not, but if you're telling me it is, I'll concede to that. I just don't remember.
I actually will show you something, but I don't want to go out of order here. So I'm just going to see if you remember that or not. At the moment, you don't.
That's correct.
Okay. So the car is coming back. Now, the car did not look like it was going to pull into the driveway at Fort Jefferson, did it?
No, it just kept driving.
So you actually did you step into the road and flagged it down?
On its way back out, yes.
did you just explain to us how you did that? Did you jump in? You didn't go with in front of the car like this, did you? With your hands up?
Well, so I walked out into the street as it was coming out. And I, with my left hand, just signaled for the operator to stop. I stood in the middle of the road, and he stopped.
All right. So I know it's been a while since you were probably a patrol officer, but that's a signal to put your hand up. It's to stop as a sign to stop a vehicle, correct?
I think a reasonable person would make that inference. Yes, sir.
Okay. And you did that.
Yes, I did.
And Mr. Gumiani did stop, right?
Yes, he did.
When you approached the window, right?
Yes, I did.
Did he roll down the window or have an electric window button, right?
I'm not that old, but I've never in my career dealt with a window that wasn't electric in my 16 years as a trooper.
Right, so,
I think we're past that point.
Yes, we are past the point where somebody has to roll down the window unless it's a really old vehicle, right?
Not since I was a little kid, yeah.
And you noted that the air conditioning was on in the vehicle, didn't you?
It appeared to be, yes.
You started talking to Mr. Gumiani, correct?
Yes, I did.
He identified himself to you as Pavel Gumiani, right?
That's correct.
You said you don't remember if he showed you his license, but you have no reason to think it wasn't him.
No, and I may have documented that in my report. I just can't recall off the top of my head.
You asked him specifically what he was doing in the area, right?
Yes, sir.
And he told you that he was stopping by the Dulos house because he was an employee to drop off some hand tools, right?
That's accurate.
You asked him specifically where he was coming from, right?
I did.
And he told you was coming up from New Canaan and had been working down there that day, right?
Yes, sir.
Now, at this point, he didn't say anything to you about being over at another property down the street in Avon, did he?
Not at that point, no.
He simply told you that he was stopping by the house to drop off some hand tools for Fotis Dulos, right?
Correct.
You said that he seemed to be breathing heavily. Was that your testimony on direct?
That's accurate.
Did you also notice that he seemed to have like his carotid artery was like pulsing?
Yes, I could tell that his heartbeat was elevated because of what I saw.
You thought that this seemed a little out of the ordinary to you, right?
It certainly did.
You hadn't even asked him anything more pressing than, what are you doing here and where you're coming from, right?
That's accurate.
You asked him to step out, right?
Yes.
You testified just now that you patted him down, right?
Yes, sir.
You knew it wasn't Fotis Dulos at this point, though, right?
Yes, sir. I knew.
And you noticed that I think you used the term that he was, I don't know if you used the word soaking wet, but his clothing was quite wet.
Yes, sir. He was perspiring and his shirt, it was wet to the touch.
I think you actually, in your report, didn't you use the word soaking wet?
I believe that's how I referred to it in my report, yes.
When you asked him, after he told you that he had just driven up from New Canaan, you questioned him about that because of how wet and sweaty he appeared, right?
Yes, sir.
And he was inside an air-conditioned vehicle, right? According to your report, too.
Yes.
And when
Yes.
And when after you asked him that is when the first time he told you that he had actually been at a 585 Deercliff Road removing seats from a car, right?
Yes, that's accurate.
And he told you he did that so he could put them in his truck, right?
Correct.
He didn't tell you that he was doing that at the instruction of Mr. Dulos at that point, did he?
He did not.
He just said, I'm taking these seats out of the, I don't know if he mentioned that it was a Porsche, but he was taking it. Oh, he did say to you it was his Porsche, the Porsche, right?
That's correct.
And he was going to put him in his own truck, right? You asked him if you could search the car, right?
Yes.
And he said no.
Well, actually, let me rewind that. I didn't ask him if I could search it. When I asked him if there was anything illegal in the car, he offered that I was free to search it if I wanted to.
Okay.
So he actually elicited consent and said, well, not elicited, but offered consent to search the car.
However, he changed his mind, didn't he?
He did.
He said he didn't feel comfortable consenting to your searching. Isn't that true?
Yes, he made a reference that it was his boss's vehicle and he wasn't comfortable with us searching it because it wasn't his.
So he withdrew the verbal consent he had previously given.
Yes, sir, he did.
But you were allowed to look through these windows of the vehicle, right?
It would be in plain view. So yes, I did make it a point to look through to see what I could see inside.
Yeah, it's perfectly okay. If a person's driving a vehicle and you can look through the window, you're allowed to do that, right?
Yes, sir.
Sure. Have And what you saw in the back of the Jeep were what looked like individual bucket seats, right?
Yes, they were lying on their side.
And they were in the rear portion of the vehicle, correct?
Yes, in the utility / cargo area.
Now, you also saw several rolls of paper towels back there too, didn't you?
Also correct.
You also saw a number of hand tools in the back seat, right?
Yes.
Did you see any other tools at all in the vehicle at that point?
Not
Like
that
power tools?
Not that I can recall. I don't even remember specifically what tools were back there.
You then informed Mr. Gumieni if he could contact Mr. Dulos in time to come home, right?
I believe Sergeant Bisson did that. Yes.
Were you present when he did that?
Yes.
Because I know you noted that in your report, right?
Yes.
Mr. Gumieni then indicated to you that he had gotten word that Mr. Dulos and Michelle were coming home. They were coming back at that point, right?
Correct.
When they arrived, you introduced yourself, correct?
Yes, sir.
So I'm just going to show you an image which I know I've shown you previously. You recognize this image, sir?
Yes, I do.
That's you in the navy blue short sleeve shirt with the state police emblem on it, correct?
Black, but yes, sir.
Oh, it's black. Okay. All right. And that's you with the sunglasses on the right, correct?
That is me.
And the person in the striped shirt with the pink stripe down the legs, that's Michelle Troconis, right?
Yes, sir.
And the man on the left is Fotis Dulos, correct?
Also correct.
And that's how he appeared, that is, Fotis Dulos appeared when you saw him on May 31st, 2019, right?
Yes, sir.
You indicated that even though when I say you all state police had seized the house at that point, you indicated that that you escorted Michelle Troconis in so she could gather some overnight belongings, correct?
Yes, sir.
Now, in addition to Michelle Troconis and Fotis Dulos, Michelle's 12-year-old daughter was present as well, correct?
She was there at the property. Yes, sir.
And there was another woman there who was Michelle Troconis' mother. You became aware of that, right?
Yes, sir.
And by the way, do you see the mother here in the courtroom? Do you recognize her?
Just gonna object, Your Honor.
Sustained.
Well, there was testimony about it, Your Honor.
Mother's not on trial.
So without picking her up, you recognize the mother, right?
Yes, I do.
Okay. So I'm going to show you another image. By the way, you don't know who took this picture, right?
I do not. I would presume the media, but I don't know.
You do know that there was media present on May 31st, 2019, when you were at Fort Jefferson Crossing.
There was media at every avenue of this case.
They were sort of following everybody around, weren't they?
Yes, sir.
Taking pictures, whether you liked it or not, right?
Yes, that's right.
Including drones. They were using drones at one point.
I believe I remember that, yes.
Okay. So the next picture I'm going to show you, sorry, that's after. Is that you right there on the side behind the trees?
Yes, sir, that is me.
All right. So the other individuals that we see from the rear is Michelle's 12-year-old daughter, right?
Based on the size and the backpack, I would agree, yeah.
Well, there was no other child present, right?
No.
All right. And the woman with the reddish brown hair wearing the red sweater, that was Michelle Troconis' mom, right?
I believe so, yes.
Who was there at that time, right?
Yes.
You made this, who made the decision that Michelle and Fotis Dulos should be brought up to Litchfield to be processed?
I don't know who specifically. That would have been worked out between the commander of the unit and the case supervisor, as well as the van sergeant.
You testified that you had a conversation with Attorney Riccio before they were allowed to drive themselves up there, right?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Originally, the plan was to take them up in a police car.
Yes, sir.
And Litchfield is about 45 minutes or more from Farmington to where the barracks is, right?
I believe that's accurate, yes.
And what time of the day or night, or should I just say evening, were they escorted up to Litchfield?
I don't recall specifically.
You did go in and allow Ms. Troconis to get an overnight bag, right?
Correct.
You checked everything though before it went in the bag, right?
I mean, I didn't physically, inspect the items of clothing individually, but yes, I kept an eye on what was being packed just to ensure that nothing that was covered under the warrant was going to be taken out of the home.
And you recall that then the child's backpack was an overnight bag with clothing for the child as well, right?
I don't remember it specifically. I would assume so, but I don't recall.
You recall though, clothing for the child being collected for overnight so she could have a change of clothes, right?
My recollection is I think the grandmother did that, yes.
You went in with the grandmother?
Correct.
Got it, okay. And you did a cursory, at least, review of the house, right, when you went in there?
So I don't recall if I went in on the protective sweep or if I stayed outside with them. I'm going to err on the side of caution and say I stayed outside. I do remember being outside with Mr. Dulos and having a conversation with him, making small talk. So I can't remember if I went in for the cursory search or not. I only remember going in to pack their overnight bags with them. I can't recall if I actually went in for the sweep or not. I think I stayed outside with them.
Okay. Do you recall being in the office at any?
No.
Judge, we finished with this photograph?
Oh, yeah. And although it's honored that it's been offered, I just want to make sure you don't recall being up in the ante office where the extra set of stairs are.
No, I do not.
You do not.
No.
You recall seeing the door to the office being in the alcove right where you were standing near the driveway alcove. the garage out?
Kind of knowing the layout of the property as we stand today, I wasn't aware at the time, but yeah, I believe their office space was above the garage. So if you're facing the house, that would be on the right side.
Okay. You testified about observing Michelle Troconis up at the Litchfield Barracks that evening after they had driven themselves up to Litchfield, right?
Yes, sir, I did.
And you said they were escorted by police, is that right?
My understanding is, yes, there was, the best way I could describe it was a convoy of vehicles, them and theirs, and then the troopers and detectives in their own cars, all kind of just convoying up to the troop.
I won't use the word caravan, like a convoy with some in front and some behind the vehicle, right?
Yes, that's how I remember it.
Okay. And you said that you observed Michelle looking and shaking her head
Yes,
when they were in the barracks, right?
correct.
Did you see her with her head between her knees and with her head down between her knees?
I did see that, yes.
Okay. And you noticed she was crying?
She was upset, yes.
You testified that Mr. Dulos was staring at her sternly, I think is the term that you used, right?
Yes, after she gave him kind of, a look of disdain, if you will, for lack of a better term, and he gave one back to her.
Right. So you're saying she gave what you called a look of disdain to Dulos, right?
Yeah, so it was clear to me based on my observation that the two had communicated non-verbally, so facilitated through body
I'm gonna
language.
object as non-responsive. I don't know how you could know that they were communicating.
Well, there's no need to engage in the conversation on your objection. The last portion of the response is stricken as non-responsive.
Whatever you observed by my client, you're saying that Dulos gave her a more even stronger look or glare at her. Is that a fair way to put it?
That would be a fair statement, yes.
Okay. There's no video of them being up at the barracks, is there?
Not to my knowledge, no.
Were they in an area where there's cameras at the Litchfield Barracks?
No, they were in a conference room.
So I'm going to jump now to towards the end there where we started with this, and I'm going back to it because I played the video. You were not able to tell whether there was, who was in the red pickup truck that was pulling out of 80 Mountain Spring Road, correct?
Correct.
Or what was in it, right?
In the physical truck itself?
In
No,
the
sir.
truck.
Correct.
You did not observe from any of the angles anyone actually getting into a truck or even starting it up, right?
Also correct.
Before that moment, you didn't observe, well, did you observe any vehicles driving on 80 Mountain Spring Road during the night?
So I believe at some point overnight while it was dark out, you can see a vehicle driving through. You can't make out what type of car it is, but I do remember seeing a vehicle drive down Mountain Spring Road at some point on the footage.
You see headlights?
Yes.
Okay. And it didn't stop, did it? Kept going.
It didn't appear to stop, no.
You indicated that you split the time of viewing it with, was it Detective Clabby, you said?
Correct.
Did you start observing at midnight on May 24th, which looked like midnight and 10 minutes before midnight on May 25th? Right?
Yes, that would be accurate around that time. Yes.
Do you know how many hours of video you watched during that night?
I don't recall.
Was it multiple hours?
I believe so, yes.
Did you then go back and look at any of the videos that Detective Clabby was looking at prior to midnight, that is on the 23rd?
I did not.
What time, and I realize I forgot to ask you this question, what time did Michelle Troconis and Fotis Dulos leave the Litchfield Barracks on the evening of May 31st?
I don't recall specifically. It was definitely later at night. I know I seized Mr. Dulos' phone sometime between 9 and 10 p.m. So it would have been
After that.
after that.
So it's clearly dark by then.
Yes, sir.
And as far as you knew, they still weren't allowed to go back into their house, right?
As far as I know, no.
When you went to Mr. Gumieni's house on June 2nd, what time were you there?
I don't recall. I would have to look at the report. I remember he signed a consent form for the download of his phone. That form has a time noted on it. So I don't recall exactly what time of day it was without looking at the report.
You testified that he just cooperated and gave consent. Is that what you said before?
Correct. I ended up speaking to his attorney, Lindy Urso. And after he consulted with his attorney, he did give us consent, yes.
Well, the conversation between you and Mr. Urso was recorded, wasn't it?
But yes, it was.
And Mr. Urso protested that you didn't have a warrant for Mr. Gumieni's phone,
I'm
didn't
just going to object, Your Honor.
Sustained.
you? You told Mr. Gumieni that if he didn't let you, if he didn't consent to getting his phone, giving it to you, it would be months before he got it back. Didn't you tell him that?
I don't recall that specifically, but that sounds accurate. I mean, that would be what would happen.
It was only after that that he then consented, right?
I'd have to listen to the recording, but that sounds like it might be accurate.
Okay. And you said you also seized the Jeep Cherokee at that time, right?
So not at that specific time. We were sent back later, the same day.
Did you have a warrant for the Jeep?
We did not. Not to my knowledge, no.
Did you also take a DNA sample from Mr. Gumieni?
Not at that specific instance. We interviewed Mr. Gumini again with his attorney, and my partner, Detective Allegro, took a DNA sample from him.
At that time?
Correct. So
You weren't-
after.
You weren't there for that?
I was.
Oh, you were there?
I watched that. Yeah, that was in the interview room. It was recorded audio, video, and he was in the presence of counsel, Mr. Attorney Urso, and he consented to a buccal swab, which is a DNA sample.
The other thing I was going to ask you about is you also testified that you had gone from, you would watch the video at 77 Mountain, right?
Yes, sir.
And you had also been to Jefferson Crossing, right?
Yes.
So you were somewhat familiar with that area, right?
Yes, at the time.
All right. So I'm going to show you. There's no objection.
No objection.
Exhibit P is no objection to Exhibit P as a full exhibit.
Defense is P as a full exhibit.
We've been using a lot of Google Maps and diagrams and whatnot. So I'm going to show you a video. All right, I'm going to stop this here for a second. This is now a full exhibit. Do you recognize this to be the area of central Connecticut around the where Fort Jefferson Crossing and 7 Mountain Spring Road is, that this is the Avon Farmington area, recognize it as such?
I don't, honestly, not just by looking at it this way. I'm sorry.
Well, I'll play a little bit more here. I'm gonna ask whether you recognize this to be Eli Road coming up from Mountain Spring Road. And I'm referring now to a diagonal road that starts in the lower right portion up toward, going towards the left portion. Do you recognize that or not yet?
No, sir, I'm sorry, I do not.
Well, I'm just going to play this and I'll stop it at various points.
Can you take it? This part's out. I think you just click on that. Up down. Just anywhere. Oh, never mind.
All right, I'm going to stop right here. Do you recognize this to be Fort Jefferson Crossing?
It appears to be consistent, yes.
And then this being 1 Jefferson Crossing across the street there?
Yes.
I think this goes here. Again, in the center there, that's clearly shows Fort Jefferson Crossing, right?
I believe so, yes.
And you see the Yukon Health Center and Hospital up in the distance there at the top?
That looks to be accurate. I believe that's on Route 4 or somewhere in the vicinity.
At the road that's traveling in this image, recognize that now to be Eli Road, heading down towards Mountain Spring.
Yes.
Okay. So this would be the direction of travel from Jefferson Crossing down Eli Road towards Mountain Spring, correct?
Yes. I believe so, yes.
And if
I
we
think you have to
follow,
cross Old Mountain Road, I think, before you get to Mountain Spring. Is that accurate?
say that again?
I think you have to cross Old Mountain Road to get to Mountain
Well, I
Spring.
think we're gonna get there in a minute. I'm going to pause this for a second here. You see where there's an intersection here between, I'm pausing it at 2 minutes and 28 seconds. You see where there's a T intersection here where Eli Road crosses another street here?
Yes, yeah, I believe that's Old Mountain Road.
That's Old Mountain Road in Farmington, correct?
Yes, sir.
And if we go in this direction, which we'll see in a second, if you keep staying on Old Mountain Road, you know that that eventually comes out into the town of Avon, right?
I believe it does.
And it eventually goes into Route 10, right?
Yes, I think so.
And that connects with Route 44, right?
I believe you're right on that, yeah.
Okay, so I'll play it again now. And there's a vehicle passing on there. You see that vehicle that's you see in the middle there that's driving?
It looks like a yellow pickup truck, yes.
Yes, that vehicle would be on Old Mountain Road, right?
That's accurate.
And now that vehicle went right. We are now on Mountain Spring Road, aren't we?
Yes, sir.
And we're heading in the direction of 80 and 77 Mountain Spring Road, correct?
Yes, sir.
You also see that in the center there's a double yellow line on Mountain Spring Road, correct?
Appears to be.
And the double yellow line means it's a main road that connects between main roads, right?
Typically, it's a road where the speed limit's a little higher. Yes.
The drone is following Mountain Spring Road down from Jefferson Crossing, correct?
Appears to be, yes.
Now, the house that's coming up in the distance now to the left, so that we're oriented correctly, that is 80 Mountain Spring on the left, and that's 77 on the right that we see now, right? If I stop the... Am I correct about that?
Yes, that appears to be correct.
And here is the driveway that of 77 that goes out one way and comes in the other way here somewhere.
Correct.
And here is the property itself, correct?
80 Mountain Spring, yes, sir.
80 Mountain Spring from the, and the driveway is on the other side of this video, correct?
Yes, it's on the opposite side of the house. The driveway wraps around from the left side and then in front of the house and back out to the street.
And if we continue down Mountain Spring Road, eventually we will come to the, you said Route 4?
Yes.
Almost right in downtown, or downtown, the center of farming, correct?
Yes, sir.
The little commercial area farming.
Yeah, as businesses, gas stations, etc.
All right. And again, that's 80 on the left and 77 on the right, correct?
Yes.
And as the camera pans up going south, you see that there's a golf course and there's some open fields and a lot of trees there, correct?
Yes, I believe so, yes.
And you also see the other mountains in the distance, correct?
Yes.
And as the camera now is panning to the left, you again see homes, right? And you see these are the commercial buildings on Route 4, are they not?
They appear to be.
This whole area is heavily wooded, correct?
Appears to be, yes.
And there's some cliffs here. Looks like the one house in the right corner is built almost on a cliff, right?
Yeah, that looks accurate.
And that's the Yukon Health Center closer, right?
Off in the distance there, yes, on the right side, upper right portion of the screen.
It's all the medical facilities there, correct?
Yeah, the
It's
medical examiner's office is there as well, I believe.
What's there?
The medical examiner's office?
Yes, it's probably one of these buildings right around here, right?
Yes.
Okay, and the, this is all heavily wooded area, correct?
Yes.
And, oh, I'm gonna stop right there. Up here, that's the city of Hartford right there, isn't it?
Yes, yes, it is.
It's all the downtown buildings, right?
Yes.
And if we're looking at the city of Hartford, we're looking east, right?
Yes, yeah, from where I assume it's a drone, where the drone is, it appears to be the city's out toward the east, yes.
And once again, we see Eli Road in the foreground in the lower part of this video.
I believe so, yes.
Does this help orient you to the fact that Jefferson Crossing was on top of Avon Road?
Yes, it does.
Just wondering.
Now you see as we're approaching, there's a body of water that we're viewing that's between the city of Hartford and where the drone is. You see that?
Yes.
That's part of the MDC reservoir area, correct?
As I understand it, yes.
And if we look way in the distance, just for orienting sense, that's Massachusetts that you see way, way in the distance, Lewis Mountains, correct?
That appears to be accurate, yes.
Correct. Does this look like it might be Holyoke Mountain right there?
Oh, I couldn't say.
All right, fair enough. Now I'm going to stop the video for a second. This area where the power lines are, you see that there?
Yes, sir, I do.
That is a gravel utility road, correct?
Appears so.
Did you go in there at all?
No, I did not personally.
You didn't accompany Ms. Troconis when she went with the police to show where the motorcyclists go, right?
No, I did not.
But it's not a paved road through there, is it?
It doesn't appear to be, but I've never been back there, so I can't say with certainty. It doesn't. It doesn't. Say what?
You're not a hiker?
I don't hike power line trails. No, I'm more of a runner myself.
Okay,
Judge, you pause it at 10:31.
that's true.
Thank you.
Okay. You see in the the background there, another lake appearing, you see that?
I do.
That's where Route 44 is, isn't it?
Hard to say, but if I'll concede to that if that's what you're saying. I don't know though.
I just want to be clear, you're familiar a little bit with the power lines, right? And I'm just going to reorient myself. So this is still for Jefferson Crossing down here in the bottom right. Stop this at 12 minutes and 11 seconds, right?
It appears to be, yes, sir.
And I want to be clear, these high tension power lines, they don't continue near 80 Mountain Spring Road, do they?
I don't know, honestly.
They come out near the Yukon Health Center, don't they?
I don't know.
And this is the drone landing, so I'll turn it off if the state wants me to play the rest of the extra minute.
I think we've seen enough.
All right. So I just want to be clear after we watch that video. Fort Jefferson Crossing was near the pinnacle of that portion of Avon Mountain, right?
Appears, yes, sir.
It was a very wooded area, correct?
Yes,
There were also a lot of homes with yards and fences and whatnot in that area, right?
correct.
The only road between Jefferson Crossing and 80 Mountain Spring was Eli Road down to Old Mountain Road, hang a quick right and then turn left and continue straight down to that location, correct?
Yes, sir.
The only other way to get there would be to come up from the area near the Yukon Health Center that we saw and the commercial buildings that were in that part of Farmington, correct?
Yeah, I believe you'd come off of like a Talcott Notch Road. And from that area, maybe.
Like Talcott Notch, we didn't talk about Talcott Notch, but Talcott Notch and Old Mountain Road, you have to cross both of those roads before you get to Route 4, right?
I believe you do.
And then you come to where the commercial areas are, including the gas stations, right?
Yes,
The medical buildings are down there.
correct.
And then there's an entrance to I-84 in Farmington, right?
Oh, there is.
And if you go the other way on Route 4, eventually you go right into West Hartford where there's a Stop and Shop, right?
I believe so.
And I just have a couple more questions. Did you, when you split up the review of the videos from 77 Mountain Spring Road with Detective Clabby, did you consult with each other and discuss what each of you found or not?
Oh, we did.
Did you then go and view what he had looked at?
No, I did not.
He just told you what he had seen, right?
I believe so, yes.
And same thing with you. When you did your view, he didn't come in and watch it. You just told him what you had seen.
That's accurate.
I have no further questions.
Well, it's probably a better idea to continue redirect after the luncheon recess.
Yes, Judge.
Ladies and gentlemen, we will stand in our luncheon recess today until 10 minutes after 2. Please do not discuss the case. Have a good lunch.
Yes.
All rise. Court is now in recess until 2 o'clock. Please exit the courtroom.
Okay, and with that, we've got an hour break. I'm thinking under the circumstances, I will take a break on this live stream and start it up again in an hour so that I can try to get a bit of a nap in, because my brother is in coronary ICU at one of the top coronary units in the country. So spent most of the night at the ICU waiting room, and so I can use a bit of a nap. But we are caught up, so we'll see you in an hour. Hope to everybody comes back, so we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.